It doesn't make sense. Welcome to History Legends, and this is the first video of a series where we'll analyze step by step all the major battle scenes from the famous TV show called Band of Brothers, in terms of historical accuracy and realism. As of now, I think that Band of Brothers is among the best depictions of World War II in cinema, and I'm thrilled to rewatch all these episodes for you. So in this video, we'll start with the assault on the Brécourt Manor from episode 2. It's said to be a unique example of assault tactics, which immediately threw Lieutenant Winters into fame, and you'll discover why in a second. As always, before we start, if you're new to this channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out my unique veterans book with tons of World War II first-hand accounts, link in the bio. And as you know, I've been working really hard on these historical reactions to war movies, so make sure to check out my Patreon to keep the show running. Alright, you ready? Let's go. So this takes place in Normandy, D-Day, June 6th, 1944. They're preparing the assault, sneaking up to the German positions. And now they have an MG. It's D-Day, and there's this German artillery battery bombarding Utah Beach, and Lieutenant Winters was tasked to destroy it. Thing is, Lieutenant Winters only had 12 men to accomplish this mission. Now the German howitzers were positioned near a location called the Brécourt Manor, and Lieutenant Winters went to recon the area on his own and estimated enemy forces to be about 60 men. So they're engaging the enemy. Lieutenant Winters explained that the attack would be a quick frontal assault supported by a base of fire from different positions as close as possible to the enemy guns, to make the Germans believe that they're attacked by a much larger force. Now Winters' strategy relied on surprise and local superiority. The uniforms look splendid. Okay. This is the battlefield as it was on D-Day. On the right, we have German howitzer emplacement number 1. Then if we move to the left, there's a little bend in the trench, and this is where we saw that German machine gun. And right behind, a little further down the trench, there is howitzer emplacement number 2. And along that tree line, there is a third howitzer, and another 100 yards after number 3, there is howitzer emplacement number 4. Now, the only thing missing now, and I think it's one of the most obvious mistakes of this battlefield, is that we don't actually see the Brécourt Manor, which would be located right in the middle here. Okay, as crazy as it sounds, Lipton actually went on top of that tree. However, Lipton said that this was his biggest newbie mistake ever. Lipton said that he never would have climbed that tree and exposed himself had he been a veteran. It was all their first time in combat. Lipton added, "I felt that if a bullet was headed for me, it would be deflected or I would move." I love it. Look, he's reloading. Another guy reloading. I love it. From what I see, they're struggling. Of course, they're stressed under enemy fire. Very realistic. I like it. Okay, check this out. Hold on. Very important point. Let's take a look at the German defenses at the Brécourt Manor. We know there was a battery of 4 howitzers linked up by a trench. Each howitzer had a crew of 6 artillerymen, for a total of 24. There were 5 machine guns protecting this battery, 1 defending the main road, another in the manor. 2 were defending the fields on the west side. Now for the one facing Easy Company, the show depicts it as pointing towards the forest, but upon further analysis I believe it would have rather pointed to the left to protect this field, and thus complete the 360-degree defense of the battery. Overall, with 24 artillerymen and 10 machine gunners, this leaves about 15 German riflemen to defend the trenches. Now the big maneuver is that Winters ordered assault team number 2 to sneak up to the Germans and flank them, while the Germans are distracted by the main firing line. Okay, quick pause. Did you notice his hand motion? Basically, he meant one MG42 25 meters away and launch a grenade. Now this is a realistic assault of an enemy trench. These guys throw 3 grenades at the same spot to guarantee some pack-a-punch. And this creates extreme damage in tight environments like trenches. And right after they jump into enemy lines, just as the Germans are stunned. What we don't see in this assault is how Compton and Garnere were said to have thrown grenades almost at every step. They literally blasted one grenade after another right into the trenches. The German defenders had no other choice but to flee or face severe consequences. And the paratroopers even threw some at the ones running away. That's a lot of grenades. I know paratroopers could carry 4 to 6 frags in their pockets. My theory is that during the assault, they might have carried a pouch filled with grenades. In my opinion, it's much more convenient than to look through tiny pockets right in the middle of an attack. And I would like to point out what Compton said about this particular event. Lieutenant Compton said he would not have burst through that hedgerow had he been experienced. He said, "I was sure I would not be killed." So as opposed to what we see in the series, I don't think he actually looked through the hedgerow to analyze enemy positions. He just got as close as possible, threw the grenades and just went through. However, despite being inexperienced and doing careless actions, this got rebalanced by their extensive training in the past 2 years. Lipton said, "We were like a machine. We didn't have anyone who leaped up and charged a machine gun. There weren't many flashy heroics. We had learned that heroics was the way to get killed without getting the job done." You see, they charge in open field. It's literally heroics. Careless heroics. So I don't think this is legit. I think it's made up. Because in reality, Winters and his assault team simply moved along the hedgerows and linked up with Compton in the trench. So he got hit. Okay, did you see that? Check this out. What a weird way to throw a grenade, right? But what if I told you that this was legit? Because Compton had been a baseball player for UCLA before the war. But believe it or not, the distance to the fleeing Germans was about the same as from home plate to second base. Which is where his old baseball instincts came back. But this moment was actually much more special to all of them than what we think. All these men remembered, even many years after, how they had their blood pumping and adrenaline giving them Superman strength. And I think this is what a lot of veterans can relate to. And I would have wished that we see this when they reach that trench, when they see their buddies and they're like in a second state of mind. In reality, it's Garnere that missed all his shots with his Thompson. And there's another point. I feel that the show tries to sanitize the entire image of Lieutenant Winters. It's not something bad, but I think it's important for you to understand. Let me explain. For example, in this scene, it's Garnere that missed with his Thompson, but it's Winters that fired on the Germans for him. He's also the one that fired the first shot in this firefight. And he's also the one that shot that wounded German when Compton's SMG was jammed. He's literally always there when it's time to shoot at the enemy. And there's this interesting scene if we fast forward a bit to the end. Okay, the riflemen go, Winters the last one. And this is silly, but it's loosely based on actual events. Let me explain what actually happened. Here was this one wounded German we left behind, and he tried to pull an MG on us. So I drilled him clean to the head. This line alone tells you the mentality of Winters, but we don't get that in the show. In the show, he's kind of this nice guy. But in reality, this guy was more keen to spears. But these are also the guys you want on your team when the fighting starts. But in their defense, Band of Brothers was not about Lieutenant Winters alone, so I can understand how they gave more screen time to other characters as well. He yells, tells everyone to continue, shifts his local superiority somewhere else. Leads from the front. Okay, take this up. This part 100% happened. However, the one thing we don't see in the show is that these two Germans were actually wounded and taken prisoner. As we've covered before, there was only one trench connecting all the German gun emplacements. Had Winters not shot them before they positioned themselves, the entire assault would have failed. Listen to this buzzing. You hear it? Beautiful. Okay, basically what's happening is that after the assault started, the Germans finally reacted and noticed they were getting attacked. 3 German machine guns were positioned on the opposite side of the field. The thing is, they were cutting right across the top of the trench from the opposite side. So the men of Easy Company were confined to the trench system, and they had to keep their head low. Okay, you see this part? It doesn't make sense. He's standing fully upright, like standing up. This guy would have been shot. At one point, we see 2 German grenades explode. Considering the range of a grenade, these were most likely thrown from gun emplacement number 2, which tells us that the German troops were actively defending their trenches. Now take a look at this scene.
There's the second gun. Grenades first.
Although it's not explicitly shown, we do see 3 German infantrymen firing at the paratroopers. We also see the gun crews reloading their heavy 105mm shells, which shows how much they were needed to stop the American beach landing at Utah Beach. These little details that are both historically accurate and realistic is what I love about this show. I only wished it was more explicit. Oh, before we continue, I also want to congratulate Band of Brothers for recreating German trenches that make sense. The height is legit, then the way that the trenches are narrow, and where there's wood on the side, this is literally what was done at the time. So he's now shifting his assault group. Oh, you see, there are 3, they're supposed to be 5. Okay, they are ready. Assault. Okay, it's a beautiful attack, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. My problem is the following. He throws a grenade and it literally blows up in their face. What looks silly is the distance between the jump off position and the actual gun emplacement was much larger in reality. They were so far away that when the grenades exploded, and you heard what I said, grenades, I think the entire assault team all threw their grenades at the same time. But the thing is, by the time they got to the cannon, the Germans were already gone. The other thing that doesn't make sense to me is the assault lineup. We know the M1 Garand has a much slower rate of fire than the Thompson. Ideally, you would want the guys with the machine guns in front of the one with the rifle. What are they doing? Oh my god! He's dead! What are they even doing in the field? It doesn't even make sense. This dialogue actually happened. However, it took place inside a trench. This guy came in, asked for Battalion HQ, got the directions, he lifted his head up from the trench and got shot. Okay, I think this is the most important part. So we hear German radio with coordinates. At gun emplacement number 2, Winters found a command post with a map with all the German artillery positions in the west part of Normandy. And this event really made Lieutenant Winters super famous. To the point, once his hierarchy heard about this attack, they immediately sent him the first 2 tanks available on Utah Beach directly to Brécourt Manor. Now, I know that I can be critical, but overall I'm pretty happy at how the Battle of Brécourt Manor was depicted in Band of Brothers. The beauty of this show is how it's based on a lot of interviews that Stephen Ambrose did for his book, Band of Brothers. Many of the veterans of Easy Company were still alive when the show came out, so Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg had to tell their stories as close to the real thing as humanly possible. Hope you liked this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you for episode 2.